Morning. Did you feel the peacefulness and the quietness? Didn't that feel good? It's so seldom we ever get peace and quiet. So that was a gift this morning. It is January the 23rd, 2022, Sunday. This is Red Deer, Alberta, Canada, and this is the Center for Spiritual Living, our celebration service of life and love. I'm Reverend Tress Phillips, or Teresa Phillips. Both work. Now, we have an announcement. We have membership forms. They're inside of your bulletin, and if you wish, you may fill them out, or you may send an email to the center indicating that you wish to become a member and your contact information, and you will see it in the notice we send out. But you can also, if you're online and want to become a member, we'd love you to be a member. Now, our Growing Spirit Circle is for the children, and I see a bunch of children here that are in adult bodies. So the word is idealism. A person with high ideals is someone who really cares about what is right in life. Idealists dare to have big dreams and then act as if they're possible. They can imagine something and then they do it. Now I'm going to go back over there. Idealists they dare to have big dreams, and then they act as if they're possible. I get the feeling Reverend Doug's going to be talking about this later on. Now, the affirmation, if you wish to repeat with me, is I create my world, making my dreams come true. Now, if you would like to join me in the opening affirmation, and it is on your sheet here. Today, all things are made new. I choose to release old beliefs that have limited my experience of good. I know myself as unlimited possibility, ready to express life with greater joy, greater love, and greater creativity. I accept that all good is available to me, and so it is. Well, thank you. Now, I get to introduce our guest speaker, Reverend Douglas Craig. I thought I'd be formal today. Reverend Douglas Craig, and we are having a moment getting turned on, so we are having another quiet moment. So enjoy.
Okay. Oh, there we go.
He's on, everybody. I better get out of here.
Good morning. How's everyone this wonderful day? Well, good. So we're going to talk about, the theme this month is Living Everyday Wonder, and the topic today is Question Everything. So that should be an interesting topic, because there's a lot of different ways you could look at it. So to start the beginning of the questioning, let's begin with an opening meditation. So I invite you just to take a few moments to go within and to close off all the external activities that are going on in the world around you, and to be here in the present moment. Because the point of power is always in the present moment. There is no time but now. So now, as we go within, quietly go within, and to know that there is one eternal life forever giving of itself. And that is God's life, my life, right here and right now. And I know that whatever it is that I need to know, and whatever it is that I need to do, is available to me if I'm willing to sit in silent contemplation and ask the appropriate question. Knowing that as I do that, that spiritual presence and power within me responds, maybe not right away, however the answer is delivered. So as we contemplate this idea, let us just take some time to reflect upon what is the most important question for ourselves that we have here right now and right today, that we're seeking guidance, clarification, or a definitive answer on. So take a moment and contemplate that question. And so as you contemplate the question, feel the energy around it that you're putting out with respect to the question. And in this silence time, as we have planted that seed, we know that it now becomes a reality, and it comes to us in our experience. Maybe it has already. However, it is in our experience, and it is delivered. So we know that whatever it is that we ask for in the silence of our mind will be provided in the form of guidance to whatever it is that we desire to experience or know in life. So we know that this is available, and we go forward accepting it to be so, and so it is. So one of the things about question everything, now Ernest Holmes, the founder of our movement, the Science of Mind, was well known as a young man to always be asking the question, why? Why? And he used to drive, for what I understand, his parents crazy because he was always asking why. Why? And there's nothing wrong with doing that. It's just, what are you doing it for? I got a little thing here that said that why is a small word, but a big question with infinite possibilities. Why not give it a try and ask yourself, what's your why? So, there's a lot of different ways that you could look at this concept of asking questions. So I'm going to give you some different points of view. Some of them get you in trouble, and some of them give you answers. So I always say, be careful what you ask for, because you might get it. And a lot of people say, well, what's wrong with that? Well, there's nothing wrong with that, except that what happens a lot of times when we ask for things, and when it comes, we always say, I don't know whether I'm ready or not. Has anybody ever said that? I don't think I'm ready yet. But it's happening. Has anybody had anything happening and you say, well, I don't know whether I'm ready? Maybe a relationship, maybe a job, a career change, maybe retirement. Who knows? And that's one of the things that happens in this philosophy and teaching is we're always asking for direction and guidance. And when we get it, we don't want to take it. We seem to get stalled. So that's one of the things that I found over the years of counseling with people. They'd come and they tell me what's going on, and I'd ask them what they were working on and what they're asking for. And the question is, well, this is happening, but how do I know if the time's right or not? Anybody want that? How do I know if this is the right time to do it? And it's really simple. The answer is simple. Is it happening? Yeah, it's the right time. And then we go, well, what if? What if it doesn't work out? What if this? What if that? What if you don't do it when it's happening? It might not happen. So we could always ask those other kind of questions, the what if. We want to stay away from that kind of stuff. We want to just get the guidance, step into the experience, and deal with whatever it is that comes up. So watch what you ask for. Jesus always said it there. That's the key there is you don't receive until you ask. Jesus clearly said, ask and ye shall receive. So one of the key things about asking and receiving is to always make sure you ask the right question. So a lot of times I see people say, well, I asked the right question. I want to know why this always happens to me. Or why did this happen to me? Anybody want to know that question? Wrong question to ask. The question to ask is, what do I need to know about myself that created this experience for me? That's what you want. So a lot of times when we're using asking the questions, we got to make sure that we ask the right question. Okay? Because if not, we can still stay in the problem instead of looking for the solution. I always say that whenever I went through a major change or a major shift, there was two questions that one could ask is, how did I end up in this experience? Why did this happen to me? Has anybody ever wondered that? Second question is, how am I going to get out of it? How am I going to resolve this? So you got those two questions. Which one do you look at? One is now to move forward, and one is looking in the past, looking for the problem. What I found out is you never start by looking for the problem. You never start by doing that. You look for the solution. You look at how to resolve the issue and how to move forward. By doing it that way, ultimately, eventually, you come to understand what the problem was and why you were in it. However, if you keep focusing in on trying to understand the problem, you'll eventually understand the problem, but that won't take you forward. You just know why it's there. Now what are you going to do about it? And I don't know whether you're a fan. I'm a fan of a TV series that Ann and I watch. It's called The Blacklist. And some of you may have seen it, but there's an old arch criminal there, Red Reddington. And I got a quote off of that a few weeks ago that I absolutely love. And what he said was, beware, getting lost in the past distracts us from the work of the present. Getting lost in the past distracts us from the work of the present. So what our mandate is in life is to stay in the present and move forward. Because if not, we can get into the paralysis of analysis. Anybody ever do that? Get into the paralysis? You just analyze it to death and you still don't have, even if you come up with the answer, you don't still feel good about it. So it's all about making that decision to move forward or to stay stuck in the past. So that's what we want to do. We always want to make sure that we're looking and we're part of the solution. Another thing too, it's really interesting. What we got to do sometimes in order to, say, have closure on situations or anything like that is we got to ask some questions. However, there's always something that can happen when you have a perception of a situation and then you start digging into it deeper. If you ever do that and dig into a situation deeper, be prepared, because the deeper you get into it sometimes, the worse it appears. I'll give you a good classical example of that is a few years back, my brother was murdered. And, okay, so that was fine. That was in November. And I told my other brother, I said, I got to get closure my own way. And how I get closure is I need to do, in this case, my own investigation. So I waited till 9 months after before I began to make sure I could get myself in the proper space, in the proper frame of mind, so that when I did it, I had the clarity of doing it to gain closure for myself. That's all. That's all I wanted to do was get closure. However, I had an idea what happened, and I got tidbits of information. But as I began my own investigation and asking different questions, the more I asked, the worse it got. Till it got to a place where what really happened, I just couldn't believe it. However, I needed to get that place. I don't like it. I didn't care for it. However, I got to the place where I got the truth that I needed to get the closure I needed. So sometimes you've got to ask those questions to get kind of closure on a situation, whether it be a death, the end of a relationship, a career, whatever it is. You've got to ask those questions to get to that place, but then you've got to be prepared to leave it and close it off. I remember once getting fired from a job that I had been asked to go do by a top dog, and went and did the job too well and exposed some things and got fired for it. If you can imagine that, I wasn't very happy. But what I had to do to get closure was I had to go have a meeting with that guy, and it took me, 15 or 20 times of bugging him before he'd have a sit down across the table with me. Because I had a question I needed to know. I needed to know the answer to the question. And I said, you're the one that asked me to go over there. I want to know, why did you do that to me? Why? Okay? And he couldn't look me in the eye, and he just said, well, that's just the way it is sometimes. So I knew I didn't. That was it for me. It was over. I got my closure. So sometimes we need to ask questions to get closure, but the process itself is not necessarily a comfortable one. So we always have to do is make sure and be clear on what's our intention when we're doing that. So it's good to ask questions for closure. And, of course, one of the other things I alluded to is make sure you ask the right questions at the right time, in the right way, with the right kind of energy. Like I said, what's wrong with me and why does this always happen to me? Well, I'm sure we've had those kind of questions ourselves when we have the same thing happening over and over again. And so you change that as, what do I need to know about myself to move beyond this experience? So in any given situation, we're going to ask questions. The key is to make sure that we ask the right question so that we're seeking a higher road. And that higher road that we call is spiritual discernment. So we want to practice spiritual discernment in all kinds of situations and in all kinds of questions we're asking for. And discernment is really perception or judgment. So we want to practice spiritual perception and judgment on situations. We want to look at it like that. Dr. Holmes said, through spiritual discernment, we see that we have within us a power which is greater than anything we shall ever contact, a power that can overcome every obstacle in our experience. So that's why when we're looking at different situations and we're analyzing them, we always want to take that higher road, that spiritual self. We as individuals in the human experience tend to take situations personally. And when we take things personally and take it to that physical level, then we can't see the higher truth. Oh, you might say, that's easy to say to do that, but it's a little bit more difficult to practice. True. So there's another way of asking questions, just to give you a little bit of an idea about perception. I always say this, is always look beyond your initial perception of something and question yourself. Could it be any other way? And lots of times I see people talking about a situation and they have a judgment about it, and that's the way it is for them. But then you get some more information. If you get some more information about a situation, sometimes your perception of that situation then takes on a totally different meaning. Have you ever gone to a movie with people? Remember back in the days when we could do that? And you've gone to a movie with people, and you go talk about it after, and lo and behold, they're talking about something that you didn't see in the movie, but everybody else did. Oh, and then you bring up something you seen and nobody else did. So whenever we look at a movie, we all see something different. Sometimes it's the same things we see, and sometimes it's quite different and it's very powerful. One of my most favorite movies I always talk about, where people are quite familiar with the words that were spoken in it, but they missed a lot. And that's it. Remember The Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner and the big field he built, and then he had the voice. Do you remember what that voice said? Anybody remember what that voice said? Build it and they will come. Yeah. Okay. And that was a very powerful thing that is very demonstratable in our life. You want something, you got to build it and it will come. They will come. But what are the other two important things the voice said? Does anybody remember those? Basically, no. Most everybody doesn't. But you see, the voice gave the other two steps that go along with the first one that are necessary to bring things into completion. And you see, we could get a good idea, but we could miss the rest of it and not get the ease to bring it in, or miss the point. So the voice said, ease his pain. So, yeah, build it and they will come, but then ease the pain. Get rid of any negativity, belief, or anything that's in the way. And then the last thing the voice said, which is, go the distance. So that means, carry it through to completion. That doesn't necessarily mean you got to complete the whole project, but you got to carry it to a place of completion, say, no, I'm really done with this now, and move on. So we got to take things to their stage of completion, because we have too many incompletes in our life. And you might be thinking, well, I don't have any. Well, I'll prove it to you right now. Right here, right now. You ask yourself a question. All the people that are in my life that are close to me that I love, if any of them passed today, is there anything that you wish you would have said to them? Think about that. I'll bet you if you think about it, the answer is yes. So what we want to do in that case is we want to be complete. We want to make sure that we're clear of anything that we would have liked to resolve or said with anybody. Right now, because after the fact is, gee, I wish I would have. Gee, it ain't too bad. We don't want to live in that world, you know. I remember that what happened with my mom when she passed. And I had gone to see her, and, you know, I gave her a hug, told her I loved her, and said goodbye. And that was the last time I seen her. And I was living in Red Deer, but all my brothers and sister lived in town, right on the same street. And guess what they all said? Geez, I would have wished they'd have dropped up to see Mom the other day or before she went. Or I wish I would have done this. Or I wish I would have done that. And I lived just down the street and I didn't do that. How many of them said that? Everyone, except for one. Me. Because there was nothing more I needed to say. I was complete. So that's a very important question to ask yourself. Is I am complete? in my relationships with people? Is there anything left that I need to say? And by the way, that's not just for the people you love. That could be for the people you used to love too. Well, what do you mean by that? What are you carrying around inside of you, folks, that you need to release? What is it I need to release? One of the more powerful tools that we have been given by the Spirit is the three qualities or the three ways that we can use our mind. Now, the two ways are taught quite a bit, and everybody uses them. There's the directive quality of mind, setting goals, analyzing plans, doing all the proactive stuff, directing our life. There's the contemplative quality of mind. That's sitting in silent contemplation, prayer, meditation, being in the zone, whatever you want to call it. So those we use quite a bit. But the third one is the most powerful one, and it's the least understood and the least practiced and used. And that's called the receptive quality of mind. And what that means is you can ask a question and it'll always respond by giving you the answer. Never lets you down. Do you use this right now? All the time. And if you understand how you use it all the time, inadvertently, then you can start working with it and really get some answers. Okay, let me prove it to you. How do you like that? So what I love about this question, this philosophy, the great thing about it, it is practical and provable. You can prove it. I'll prove this to you right now. How many people here have been thinking about somebody and they can't remember their name? Especially nowadays. And then you just let it go. 2 days later, you're sitting in the toilet, and boom, their name pops in. And you're not thinking about them on the toilet, but boom, it's right there, isn't it? Does anybody have that happen? Of course. How about the other one that happens too? Oh, you're thinking about somebody and saying, I should give them a call, and then they phone you. They say, yeah, I was just going along and your name popped into my head. Right? Okay? When I found that out, I remember it was back in the days when you had to pay for long distance phones. And I didn't have a great budget, so whenever I wanted to talk to somebody, I'd focus in on them and they'd call me. Maybe not right away, but I didn't make a long distance call for about 2 years. And I got to talk to everybody I wanted. They phoned me. Try it. It works. So, if it works for those things, how come it doesn't work for me in the rest of my life? That's because we're not cognizant and aware of that receptive quality of mind. Okay? And then we got to learn to ask the right question. Oh, why am I such an idiot? How stupid could I be? What a dumb thing I've been doing. Has anybody used those questions? Yet those are the wrong questions. Because if you want to know how come you're so stupid, you're going to get the results to prove it. I didn't know I was that stupid. Right? By the way, don't challenge this one that way, folks. Well, don't waste your time because you'll get the answers. And trust me, I've already done it. It isn't fun. It's a whole lot more looking at it the other way. So we got to really look at our self-talk and what we think about ourselves. Because if we don't think of ourselves as good, then why would we ask ourselves a really good question expecting a good answer if we don't think of ourselves as a good channel? So we got to understand that we are a channel of the divine. We are all tapped into the Spirit, and the Spirit will give us what it is that we ask for. Ask and ye shall receive. Seek and ye shall find. You got to be looking for it before you're going to find it. And here's a big one. That all sounds fine to me. I'll get around to it someday. Knock, and the door will be open. Okay? Knock. And you say, well, that's natural. Well, how come we don't do it? How come we just talk about it and don't put it into action? You got to put it into action, just like if you were saying today, well, I'll come over, I'll see you this afternoon. So you go over to your friend's house, they know you're expecting them, and you walk up and you stand in the door. And you wait. An hour and a half later, the door opens. Well, how long have you been there? An hour and a half. Well, why didn't you knock? Now, if we went up and stood on somebody's door and didn't knock or ring the bell, and we did that, they probably want us to get professional help. Okay? So, don't make this something mystical or unusual. This is a natural part of our being. Ask. Of course, a couple of more things about asking. Keep in mind, asking doesn't necessarily mean verbal. We can ask mentally and we can ask emotionally. Okay? We don't have to speak the word in order to ask a question. So it could be mental or emotional. And then I always say, be careful of what you ask for you might get it. This is one of my little things that I have with people I go into the mountains with. And they say, oh, I'd sure like to see a bear, but off at the distance. Well, if somebody says that to me, I give them a lesson right on the spot. Because I am not interested in anybody who's got a consciousness of wanting to see a bear when they go into the bush. If you want to see a bear, you go to a zoo. Well, off at the distance. If you got a consciousness of wanting to see a bear, you don't get to dictate the terms of how that's going to happen. Just ask me how I know. Okay? How do I know? Across the creek away over there? Yeah, that far from my face. I prefer over there, but if you want to see a bear, you don't get to choose which one. I've had them all. And believe me, I do know what I'm talking about. So I don't entertain that at all. I really dress a person down if they're with me because I don't want that in their head. For sure. We'll take what we get when we're out there and deal with it, but do I have any problems? No. I did 110 days in the last 2 seasons of hiking in the bush. I had 0 problems or issues with anything that I come across. Okay? And I don't want to go see animals there. I just want to go have fun. Leave them have their own fun in their home. If I see them, I'll deal with it. So always, and I do that, that's one example, but, always be careful what kind of question that you're asking. We can ask questions for clarity, learning, understanding, for discernment, decision making, curiosity. We could ask questions for our wants, our questions for our needs. We're full of questions that we ask. Just be careful of the kind of questions that you're asking. A. B, which is even more important, be clear on your intention of what you're asking your questions for. What do you want to garner it for it? Why are you doing it? Well, there's that old one. Well, I'm just curious. Well, you know what they said about the cat. Curiosity killed the cat. Be real careful what you're curious about. Okay. The last thing here is to know that that power inside of you will respond to you however you use it and however you choose to use it. So there's really 2 aspects here. There's using this principle and truth that flows through us and making that spiritual connection. And I like the quote that Dr. Maxine Kay from the Pennsylvania church gave me one day to use. That she uses. She said, court the presence and direct the law. Court the presence and direct the law. The law works through you automatically by means of you. Court the presence so that you are working with the situation, whatever it is, with spiritual discernment and understanding. Use it that way and then know that you direct the law to bring into form whatever it is that you desire to experience or what you want for your questioning. So keep that in mind as you go forward. And always be careful of the questions you ask and what your intention is. So I know for you, as I know for myself, that moving forward today, I am willing to take time to ask my questions to ensure that it is for my greatest good and the greatest good of all concerned. And I know that the Spirit gives me the answer when it is that I need to know it. For I know that when I'm dealing with universal time, I'm on an as-need-to-know basis, and I am patient, and I accept that, and I give thanks for it. I know it to be so, and so it is. Whee! Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Doug. I'm sure that we can all use that message. It doesn't just flow over and we say that was nice. It's the time to decide we'll go home and make use of it. That is what he is here for. Isn't that what your intention is? That you're giving people tools they can actually use. So I thank you for that. And now we come to the prosperity portion of our program. So please read with me the prosperity affirmation. My experience of abundance fills and overflows, washing away any need to hold my good to myself. And so I share and let the good flow freely, knowing that as I give, I am constantly replenished. I count my blessings and live from a grateful heart. Life is good, so am I, and so it is. And if you wish to share in the prosperity of the center, as always, we have a basket here you can drop your envelope in. And if you're at home, you can send us a check. You can sign up for a committed giving program. You can phone the office on Monday or Tuesday morning and say, Reverend Travis, is there a time I can come by and drop off a check? Or phone to ask other questions. Whatever it is that you feel like sharing, thank you. Thank you, and thank you again. Your gift makes such a difference. And our closing affirmation, this day I know that the perfection of spirit is active in my body and in the body of my affairs. I am well, wise, prosperous, and joyous. Anything unlike this truth gently falls away from my experience, leaving me free to love my life. And I do, and so it is. Thank you. And a closing spiritual mind treatment. Right here, right now, in this moment, I give thanks. I give thanks for this day, for the people in this room, all those who have joined us online, for the energy of love and progress and an opening to a greater awareness. And this day, it is my choice to court the presence and direct the law that leads me in the paths of grace and joy and accomplishment. It is ours to accept, to do, to enjoy, to be blessed. And this moment, this day, I choose to accept all of the blessings that the infinite has to offer. And I ask you to join me in opening yourself to accept those blessings, that grace for yourself. With loving thanks, I release these words, knowing it is done, and so it is.